Hey y'all, the following podcast is a Georgia Cyber Center production. Thanks for tuning in. Things are about to get wild.
Welcome to In the Wild. Each week, we're catching you up with Augusta University's Raysean Ricks.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to In the Wild. I'm Raysean, and we got so much to talk about. So just diving right into everything. It's a new semester, it's a new year, and everyone is filled of energy to start back. Haha, if you're not. And today we're going to talk to our transfer students today. So whether you are a new transfer student or a returning transfer student, we have some amazing guests to talk a little bit about their experiences with transfer students, working with transfer students, and hopefully it'll reach a little bit of you today. And if you are not a transfer student and you want to learn more, stay tuned because we got all of that good stuff coming up. But before we jump into that topic, I wanted to just go over some semester gems for everyone, whether you are a student, whether you are new or returning, whatever the case may be. Like, this is some semester gems from Raysean to help you make sure your semester is kicked off as smoothly as possible. So first, this is like me that I should have been talking to myself 4 years ago when I was a student doing this type of stuff. And that would be introduce yourself to your professors. Like, that is probably the biggest start that could change how your semester plays out that you should do. Like, that's 100% like, take the time to introduce yourself, whether it be in an email, whether it be in person. If you have in-person classes this semester, like, take the time to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what you want to do, and why you're taking their class, and hopefully what you want to get out of their class. So, because professors love to know that you want to be there, and when they know that, they're more willing to work with you throughout the semester. So introduce yourself. Don't be shy. And that was my number one problem. I was too shy to talk to people. Another thing is find an event to go to, whether it's virtual or in person, at least once a month. Getting involved is so important, and if you don't necessarily have the time to commit to being one of the event planners or doers, at least be one of the event goers. So find something on the event calendar or Jag Life that you could just go to and show up to, because that is how you're going to maximize your college experience, is by attending events and just networking with people and enjoying other people's company. So it's time to do that if you haven't already. And thirdly, which is, I would say, a high priority, is self-quarantine if you know you've been out and about. You know, y'all have been dipping it and doing it during the little break that we had for the past couple of weeks. And now that school has started back, please don't be in nobody's faces if you know you have not quarantined, if you have not gotten tested negative for COVID. Like, please just stay home. Do all of it virtual. Do everything. Please keep whatever germs you got to yourself, whether it be COVID or anything else. So self-quarantine for the appropriate amount of time. If you know you have not been doing all of the 3 W's, washing your hands, watching your distance, wearing a mask, like, please. And going up off of that is set up a virtual appointment with Career Services. Our last episode that we had Melissa Hall to talk to us about all of the opportunities Career Services can do for you. And she mentioned that the best time to talk to them is when you are you're a newer student. So take that time if you are an underclassman to try to set up a Career Services appointment to talk about your career goals, your resume, job interviews, internships, all of that you could get started with this year. So do that. And the last thing, which is probably my favorite, would be continue to grow based off of whatever success you had last semester. Even if your semester was horrible, and I've experienced some horrible semesters, everything did not go horribly. So try to find those things that you did that, you know, helped you, that helped you grow and continue doing those things. This is a new year, which means you have a new opportunity to do things differently, but don't throw away all the things that you are doing well. Keep doing those things. Find the strength to keep doing the things that you know you need to be doing, so that way you can use some more mental energy on the things that you need to be doing. All right. So just to go over my gems, my semester gems is introduce yourself to your professors, find an event to go to, self-quarantine if you've been out and about, set up an appointment with career services, and lastly, continue to grow. So I hope I still have you with me. Stay with us because we'll be right back and we're going to talk about transfer students.
Is there a topic in your field that deeply interests you? Do you have an idea for a project that you want to get off the ground? The Augusta University Center for Undergraduate Research and Scholarship provides an avenue for students to bring their ideas to life through faculty-led undergraduate research. Such research can be done in the laboratory, the field, the library, or an art studio. The CURS program gives structure and support to your research project by providing faculty and student development activities, sponsored research seminars, and student research grants. All you need to apply is an idea and a faculty mentor who will support you through the research process. Visit augusta.edu/CURS or email curs@augusta.edu for more information.
Welcome back, y'all, to In the Wild. And joining me virtually, we have a very special guest. Her job is to work with transfer students in the Office of Academic Admissions. So please give a warm welcome to Teresa Young Pinheiro. How are you?
Hey, Raysean. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I'm coming to you from the Office of Academic Admissions, and I'm the Assistant Director for Transfer Recruitment. So work with the transfer applicants to the university.
Awesome. And so since this is our first time meeting, tell us what it's been like this past year for you working and recruiting students, admitted students virtually. What has that been like?
It's been an exciting experience for the whole office, I can say. Admissions likes to be in person. We like to be meeting students. But for transfer students, you know, they're really busy with whatever that is that it looks like in their normal lives, whether they're studying somewhere else right now, or they have families and they're going to be returning to school because they went to college some time ago. And so the pandemic, while it did introduce some new challenges to not being in person, it allowed for some good opportunities to have great conversations over the phone and virtual meetings, exposing them to programs. Those are some of the things we've seen with the pandemic.
Gotcha. What has been a funny interaction that you've had with one of your recruits or transfer students, like virtually?
I love the phone calls. Most of the decisions for a student's application get delivered via email, so we're not privy to that acceptance or whatever their admissions decision is. But there have been a couple times where we've been, in close contact with the student because they've had trouble getting a transcript here or something, and so you make that call to make sure that they're getting their admissions decision. And there's been one or two instances where a student has happened to be with their family on the other side of that phone. And when you hear the screams and excitement erupt from that family, you know that student, Augusta University is their dream, and they're really excited about coming here, and that it's maybe even the family's dream, for them to continue and get their college education. So hearing that excitement is so awesome.
It definitely is, because I can relate being an alum of AU, and this was my first choice and really my only choice. Like, I only wanted to come here and I only really applied here. So I can definitely relate to that, like, feeling of, yes, I got accepted to where I want to go. So yes, I bet being on the other side of that feels really good. What challenges?
For sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. But what challenges do you think transfer students face, not only just during the time where we're being socially distanced, but just in general of coming to a new campus, new college?
So one of the things that is first and very much at the front of mind for every transfer student is, what's my academic progress look like? There's high stakes for that on so many levels. Maybe their financial aid depends on it. They're trying to get a new job or some kind of promotion at their work that's dependent on earning that degree. And so they need to know how their credit from a previous institution is going to transfer into Augusta University. They need to know how those credits are not only transferable, but applicable towards specific degree requirements that they have. And so that looks very different for all different kinds of students. Sometimes they've taken vocational educational credits that are really fundamental to what they're learning, but they might not be transferable. So they're evaluating, what does that academic credit look like coming in, and how can they work with their academic major here to maybe make a substitution that's appropriate, and make sure that their credit aligns with the degree plan that they have. So academic progress is right there, and transfer credits is right at the very front of almost every discussion that I have with a student.
Would you say it takes probably a little bit longer to admit students who have those concerns because of making sure everything is transferred the way it's supposed to?
So the way that the admissions process works here at Augusta University is that we do the evaluation of that transfer credit here in admissions. And so I wouldn't say it takes longer. We do our very best, when the transcript is received, to start that evaluation process for a student. I would say that the length of time might depend. Sometimes students, we work with so many military students, active duty service members and veterans who they've had great opportunities to study while they've been in the military. And sometimes that means that they've been at 3 or maybe even 4 or 5 other colleges before coming here. And they have to get transcripts to us from each of those institutions.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes that can be a process. Yes. Or maybe, their dependents, their children, or their spouses. This is a very common situation for them, that they have to get each of those documents to us to be evaluated before we can give a decision. So the actual evaluation, no, but sometimes chasing down the documents can be a process and a special challenge.
And tell us why you chose to work with this population of students. How did you get into working with transfer students?
Transfer students are the unsung underdog. I love getting in the fight, and I use that in a good way. They're not the horns and bells like the new classes arrived, a new freshman kind of thing. But this past fall 2020, we were just short of 500 new transfer students at Augusta University. Yeah, I think it's so exciting for me and for this office and for the university community in general. Our new freshman class had just over 1,000 new students, and so we had just about half as many transfer students as brand new incoming freshmen. And so that's one of the exciting pieces, is that transfer students are sometimes an underdog in the whole process of getting started, but also their stories are so interesting. Everybody comes with different backgrounds, different stories, different goals, which can be said of many students, right? That's no different for incoming first-year students. But I think their variety of life experiences to get here to AU is just so fascinating and exciting for me to work with each student and their goals.
Gotcha. And since so many students had to return home due to the pandemic, did we see an increase of local students transferred to AU, if that makes sense?
It does make sense. I think we may have seen some. I haven't dug in and done lots of analytics on who those students, or if we saw an increase compared to the year before, because we always see some students, in that situation that they move away and then they realize, hey, you know what, right here in my backyard, I actually really wanted to be at AU, and this is my community, and we're also where I want to study. I think we do see that a little bit every single year. we did see some students, I think, who knew, if I live on campus, maybe I'm not going to have in-person experiences, and so maybe they transferred in. But every year, I would say we see that in some degree.
Gotcha. And could you dive in a little bit more about the transfer process? So if a student was listening to this and they're thinking about coming here, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so there are technically three kinds of students, you could say, who fall into what Augusta University calls a transfer student. The first one is the tried and true transfer student, and that'd be somebody who has 30 semester credits of college credit after high school, and they're coming from another institution. And then we have our transfer freshmen, and those would be people who've attended college after high school, but they don't quite have 30 total credits yet. And then we have our life enrichment transfer students, or non-traditional transfer students, as some people might know them. And those would be people who graduated high school more than 5 years ago, and they don't quite have, they've studied some in college at some point, but they don't quite have 30 units of college credit yet. So all of these students make up our transfer student population. Everyone goes through the basic process of submitting an application. That's like really number one, is submitting an application and submitting their official transcripts. That gets the ball rolling. It shows us more about who they are and where they would stand when they come to Augusta University. And then really admissions is like, we're like the welcome door to campus, and we love being that first face. And a lot of my job is helping connect students with the resources that they need here on campus. Because maybe at their previous institution, testing and disability services was called something else. Maybe it was called access services, or they might need to connect to the Military and Veteran Services office here. So just those are a couple of examples of what they can expect, that admissions can help them access everything else that they might need on campus.
Gotcha. And speaking of other resources, what additional resources do transfer students have to help them transition into AU smoothly?
A big one is definitely academic advising. So going back to what I mentioned as the first and foremost concern being their transfer credits, if a student's looking to matriculate into one of the selective health science programs here, like nursing, radiation therapy, respiratory therapy, they need to know where they stand in terms of their prerequisites. So they'd work with an advisor and use their JAG tracks to see their progress in the degree. I think some of the other areas that students look to connect with resources, a lot of students are really close, if not already, in their academic major. And so they really need to and seek meaningful connections with professors in the departments, looking at the requirements for the major, maybe jumping into research. They've done preliminary courses and they're ready to dive in and start doing some research. Those are some of the areas that I think I help connect students with often.
Okay, so one question, a little bit sidetracked, but since we're in a new year, what are you looking forward to this year?
That's a great question. Well, the vaccine, the rollout of the vaccine for everyone, so that we can have a bit more normalcy. I'm looking forward to, since we're not trying to accommodate so many wild off-campus work schedules and things, we've started developing some articulation agreements and have signed articulation agreements, for example, with GMC, with Georgia Military College, and our College of Education, to help create a pathway for students to matriculate into the early childhood ed or middle grades education programs. And so transfer students can start at Georgia Military College with that goal of coming to Augusta University and majoring in education. And those are really exciting possibilities.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We want to remove those barriers. Yeah, I think there was maybe a Jaguar article several weeks ago about that. We're also working with Augusta Technical College and their Associate of Applied Science in Cybersecurity, and streamlining some of those processes for students to come and study information technology at Augusta University, helping maximize the credit opportunities that students have. And so I'm hoping that 2021 provides the opportunity to explore some new articulation agreements with other academic departments on campus, maximizing opportunities for students who ideally might start at another institution for whatever reason and transition in seamlessly to their academic major here.
That is really exciting. I think that will help a lot of students as well.
Definitely. That's the goal.
And last question, where can our listeners go to learn more about admissions and keep up with the amazing work that y'all are doing?
Yeah, our website is definitely the best place to do that. Augusta.edu/admissions. And then if they just add one more slash and add transfer, so Augusta.edu/admissions/transfer, they'll find all the resources for transfer students and the admissions process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa, for being with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for talking with me. The transfer students are here. I hope they're not afraid to just raise up their hand in class and say, yes, I transferred into Augusta University, because I think they'll find themselves pleasantly surprised that there's other transfer students in their class.
Absolutely.
Augusta University's Parking and Transportation Services launched an app to track the Jag Express shuttles called Passio Go. It shows users where shuttles are in real time, the names of drivers, and the ability to set an alarm to know when a shuttle has arrived near you. Passio Go can be downloaded on all Android and iOS devices. Did we mention it's completely free? Passio Go is active right now, so download the Savvy app ASAP.
Welcome back, y'all, to In the Wild. And joining me live in the studio, we have a very old friend of mine who goes way back to high school. She is a dental student at the Dental College of Georgia, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her experiences. So welcome, Ms. Shalisa Harswell.
Thank you. So what exactly do you want me to answer for you right now?
So first, starting off, you are our first DCG student. So tell us what it's been like to be a dental student. What year are you? And
okay, so I'm a second year dental student, so sophomore. I'll be finishing up in 2023. And basically the experience so far, especially this year, has been grand. I mean, we're seeing patients already. We started last week. We started back to school last week, but we also started seeing our first denture patient last week. It's like overwhelming kind of, because almost like I'm really starting to see live patients outside of my classmates. The teachers and all are excited to have us back. Everyone is just glad to be back in the building and continuing to learn about our dental education to soon be serving everybody with our dental services.
So what has it been like trying to learn in a pandemic? What has that been like? Because I'm sure y'all had to shift gears a lot to adjust.
The major hit for us was when everything started back in March of 2020, I believe, last year. And we was out of school for about 3 weeks. We were still doing online classes. And then it turned to a period where we was not doing anything except for just being home for a while. We wasn't sure when we was going to get back. So the learning for me specifically was tough. I actually had to leave. I went back home to my hometown, Soberton, Georgia. I went there to try to get some work done and just change the environment, because everything here in Augusta had closed down, and so I was kind of stuck in my apartment, and it was becoming overwhelming. I wasn't able to just focus. I wanted to get out of the house, and I think a lot of people felt this way, but me personally, I had to leave, and I tried to find myself and just kind of refocus so I can continue to learn and study. Everything did get better back in maybe I would say around the end of May or June. We began to start back going to classes, or at least for lab, and we finished up the semester pretty well. And we took a 2-week summer break and got back at it. So ever since we started back over the summer, which was in July, we've been going to school weekly and just finishing up how we need to, but basically we're just doing the lab classes right now, and we go see our patients, but we do everything else online as far as didactic goes. So overall, though, to summarize it, the pandemic for me was tough, just adjusting to changing, being in the house the entire time. And then when we did return to school, you have these restrictions on what you can and can't do, how long you can do it. It was just different things, but it's much better now. So I think that with the vaccine and much more, they're finding ways to adapt, and everyone is coming together. Also, the patients are continuing to come, because I know a lot of them were scared and, dropped out of the program. So that really helped too.
So what does your day-to-day look like as a second-year dental student?
So my second year right now, day-to-day, I do have lab every day. I actually have lab full days, 8 to 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Tuesdays, I see patients, as well as Thursdays, we're in clinic. So it's pretty busy, but it's much better because we're not doing as much didactic as before. So now it's basically just lab. We're working on RPDs, dentures, fixed prosthodontics, things of that sort. Most of the lab work. And then, like I said, we're seeing patients twice a week for 4 hours or 8 hours if you add those days up together. So it's really nice now compared to last semester, which was set to be the toughest semester of dental school, which is a sophomore semester, your first semester. And that was really tough for me. We had one of the hardest classes that a lot of people say it's tough to get through, but we all made it through the entire class. And I'm just proud each of us did. So
What was the class?
It was one class. It was fixed prosthodontics. And it's one of the classes that everyone says kind of like, you want to make sure you're doing what you need to do because it's really tough. And you pretty much just got to be on top of everything because it's easy to get behind. And it really was. But like I said, the entire class made it through. We all passed, even though we were in a pandemic, or still is in a pandemic. We all made it through. We worked hard, and we got over to the next semester.
Gotcha. How many students are in your cohort?
And my cohort, I believe, is 98 or 97, somewhere around that range, but it's a good amount. We have one of the largest so far. I don't know how many the freshman class have, but sophomores have about 98 or 97.
So that's a big number of a cohort. What initially drew you into dentistry?
It started at the age of 12. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are like, really? But yeah, ever since I was 12, I always said I wanted to be an orthodontist, to be specific. So that's when you go to dental school, you graduate as a dentist, and then you specialize in ortho. That was my initial plan. And, I don't know now if I still want to do that because when I got into dental school, I realized that there's so many other routes that I can take. And I don't know really what my interest is right now. But like I said, back when I was 12 years old, I had braces. And I just remember like how I had gained confidence when I got my braces removed, and just seeing the changes it had for, it made for me and how it made me feel. I was like, I want to help people. I want to give people the same confidence that I had. I want to give people the ability to smile and just be comfortable with themselves. So I felt like that's something that I wanted to do. I had no prior knowledge of how to become a dentist, where to start, because no one in my family had gone this far into college. So I kind of just, I just worked my way into getting where I had to be to do what I have to do. So that kind of also led to my transfer once I got into college, because like I said, when I was in high school, after I finished high school, I went to college. And then I still didn't really know what steps I needed to do or what exams I had to take for dental school until I started reaching out and reading things on my own. And that's kind of where it started, but yeah.
So for our listeners who obviously don't know, you and I go way back to high school because we had rival high schools.
We did.
Do you remember when we first met?
I do not remember when we first met, but I remember we were both on the youth advisory board at Meadows Regional Hospital.
Yes.
Right?
So that was our first time meeting, because that I remember at least, because we were both, interested in going to healthcare at the time. I was interested in being a nurse. Clearly that didn't work out. But yeah, I remember that you and I were just like sitting right beside each other, and we were like one of the only few black people that were in that group. So I think it's so cool that from at this point, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years.
Yes, like almost 10 years ago.
It's been a while.
Like you knew what you wanted to do, and you kind of just stuck to it, because a lot of people are like me, where it's like, yeah, I wanted to do this, but I transitioned into something completely different. So that's really cool that you kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, I know people always ask me, like, if I didn't do dentistry, what is something else I want to do? And I would say law. Like, I could see myself into that field, but yeah, I just stuck with this one. So it's kind of how it was. Not easy, though. I can't say that it was really tough, but
I can only imagine what it would be like, especially during now where we're, separated and you can only do things like virtually
Right.
to try to pursue a career in healthcare. Like that's crazy. And much respect goes to all y'all because I know I could.
Thank you.
I could not do it. I cannot do it. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your undergraduate career because you are a transfer student.
Correct. So after I graduated high school, I went off to Georgia Southern University in Statesboro. And like I said, I already knew that I wanted to be a dentist, but I wasn't finding opportunity there to shadow or to just speak to someone who could get me closer to where I wanted to be. I also thought that I needed to be in a program for dentistry at that time, not knowing the process of becoming a dental student. So I looked up the dental schools in Georgia, and to my surprise, DCG was the only one. I had not known that prior to. So once I figured that out, I ended up looking into Augusta University. I had a friend by the name of Benjamin Porter who had attended here.
Yes, bien.
Mm-hmm. And so he was telling me like how Augusta University has like a dental program and just how everything could work. And I was like, okay, I could see myself transferring there, leaving Georgia Southern, getting further away from home, kind of have like a different scenery. You know what I'm saying? So I figured that would be a good thing to do. So I transferred. I got to AU and it was really life changing. The first thing I got involved with when I came here was crew. And that was just something I had been hearing about. But it was really fun to get involved with. I ended up meeting a lot of really great people. I ended up working around the community and just being able to help others as well. Also, while I was here during my initial transfer in the beginning, I ended up going to DCG to meet with the administrative. And I met with one lady there, and she has helped me since that day. So ever since then,
awesome.
she had put me in contact with a dentist who actually went there. He works out here in Augusta, actually. So we ended up working together, and he allowed me to shadow him. And it just started from there, so it worked out well.
So when you looked up dental schools, was DCG like the main choice because it was close to home, or what? Like, what else drew you to DCG?
It was nice being here because I had already been in Augusta after I transferred, but I looked at other schools as well. DCG at the time, well, I don't even know now the numbers, but at the time it was one of the top 16 in the nation, I believe. And if I'm wrong, I stand corrected, but I do think it was in the nation. And so I was just like, this is a powerful school. This is a school that I've heard so much about, a school that I would love to be a part of, and like I said, I don't have anyone in my family that's a doctor or anything of that sort. So it was all, me just figuring it out. I didn't know pretty much anything about any other schools who had gone there. So I just looked into other schools, but I figured this would be my best one because I had already known Augusta. I knew some of the people there, and I just thought that it would be the greatest one. And I think I made the best choice also. So
how does it feel knowing that you would be one of the first in your family to have this type of degree and to have their support in becoming a dentist?
It feels great knowing that I can be the example for my nieces and nephews because, like I said, I didn't have this to look up to like this, this level or whatever. But so I feel like it'll be a great example for them to see. I think also it'll be something that people in my community can look at and say, you know what, we came from a very small town where it was little to nothing. The high school offered a lack of any opportunities for the students there to just go out and explore different colleges. So I think them seeing me do this will give them hope, and make them want to go after their dreams also. So
That's
it's
awesome.
a good thing. But I can also say that prior to, it was points in my career of dental student that I did feel overwhelmed. I kind of felt like I had a lot of pressure on my back because I am the only child. Well, I'm not the only child, but I'm the only girl. I'm the baby of 4 kids. So it's kind of like we're looking at you to do something different. You know what I'm saying? So the pressure was definitely on me, and I just felt like I didn't want to let my parents down or my siblings, aunts and uncles, cousins, because it's like the entire family. I would be the only one doing something like this. So
I can definitely relate at being a first generation college graduate too, like knowing that you want to make your family proud and in a way, like you said, like they're counting on you to do big things.
Correct.
So yeah, you have like a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Right.
So how did you transition from being a Georgia Southern Eagle to becoming a Jaguar? Like, what did you do? What helped you?
It was a bit tough at first. I can say, though, that I was never the party student that everybody associates Georgia Southern with. But it was really different because when I came here, it was much smaller classes. It was also not as much student life as far as like the parties will go. I mean, here it was more so getting involved on campus. There it was kind of like, you're doing your own thing. So I kind of felt more involved here as a student as opposed to there. But the transfer, it wasn't as bad. You know, people would think, oh, wow, you went from this to that type thing. But it really wasn't a bad transfer for me because I was never the one to just be out doing everything anyways. I kind of felt like the only thing that changed was the environment. And that was really it. Like I said, I met a lot of people here. I had a lot of good friends that I met at Southern as well. But most of the ones that I've built bonds with were here. And it started from crew. And it just went on from there. And then just, you know, working in Augusta also, like while I was in undergrad, I had like small jobs like a library or tutoring. So I was able to meet people outside of my academic career and also outside of the crew. So I was able to just grow and network and meet people. So it was really good.
And you being a little bit humble for your crew experience because you actually planned or helped plan Pig Out.
I know. That was a nice one, too. I was excited about that. Me and Makia, we worked together. We teamed up on that. And I think she was the director, actually. Traditions director, I believe. That was our role. So that was really good, planning that. It was one of the big events, so it was a lot of pressure also. Like
the biggest event on campus that you helped plan. When I thought the event turned out great, too. So.
That's good. Thank you.
And what do you think are some things you had to like just overcome as a transfer student, like just being new, but you're not necessarily new to being a student, just new to the university?
I think I had to overcome, like I said, just getting to know people, getting to know the professors, allowing them to get to know me, meeting classmates, being able to work with the classmates, because here was a little bit different. A lot of people here were academically driven a little bit more than I had seen at Southern. That's mostly because here it was a lot of people that was pre-dent or pre-med. So I felt like it was more of a competition. Like, oh my, I gotta really be on. I gotta make sure I'm doing what I need to do type thing. That was the biggest thing to me, just getting involved and being able to find the right study groups and making sure I'm involved with those people and we're just doing what we need to do.
I feel you. And if you had to give some advice to a transfer student who's new, who's listening to this, what would you tell them?
I would definitely tell them to find someone that's in their field or whatever major they're trying to go into. Find someone that's going to have the same job as you, someone that wants to go somewhere, and just team up with them, work with them, try to keep someone that can hold you accountable, motivate yourself and motivate them as well, and just work hard. Also, don't be afraid to get involved on campus. Don't be afraid to reach out to professors and let them know if you need any help or if you're willing to help someone, because you can also meet by tutoring also. The main thing I would say is get involved and do the best you can and just work hard, because everything else is going to come prior or after that.
Absolutely. I think one thing I struggled with, even though I wasn't a transfer student, was just feeling comfortable asking for help.
Right.
Like, I always felt because I was a first gen and I was insecure sometimes about my place on campus. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't think I was allowed to ask for help. Like, I figured out this much, I should be able to figure everything else out.
Right. And I kind of had that feeling too when I was at Southern. It's kind of like I had to get past the whole, okay, I'm strong, I don't really need to ask for help, and just ask for help, because I realized once I started asking and getting the help that I needed, it went a long way. And that's even now in dental school. It's like, it's so many kids in my class. I would say kids, sorry, but it's so many students in my class. A lot of them are way older than I am. But either way, it's like most of them have family members who are dentists or a doctor or of some sort, somewhere. They come from a very different background than me. And it's just like, we're all here on this same platform together, but they have more of an advantage because of that. So it was a bit tough at first, asking for help without trying to be looked at as the ones of the lower ones. I didn't want it to be looked at that way. And I didn't feel that way, but that's just in my mind how I was thinking about it. And I just started asking, for help, because once I realized I would ask, other people also needed the same help, because even though they did have family members who were a doctor or a dentist or whatever the case was, they still didn't know, what we were learning. So it made it easier when everyone just came together and just helped each other out.
Yeah, that's one thing that I realize all the time, is that when you ask for help and you kind of show your cards, it kind of gives other people permission to ask for help too. Correct. And you realize that no one has everything figured out.
Right.
We're all going to be learning and struggling and getting through this together. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So you said you were in your second year, you're a sophomore. How much longer do you have to go to actually complete your
So I will be graduating in 2023. So it's a 4-year program. It's 8 total if you add your 4 years of undergrad. So I'll be done in 2 more years.
How do you
or
feel
2.5 years.
How do you feel about being done in 2 years?
I feel like I will be prepared to work. I feel like DCG actually allow us to see patients early, to start with certain procedures and everything that we're doing now. You know, a lot of schools that I see, they're not starting these things until a year later or a semester or so later. So I kind of feel like I will be prepared. I don't know at the time what I would do after I graduate. I don't know if I want to go right into working or if I want to specialize or whatever I choose to do. I just feel like when I get to that point, I will be prepared to go forward with my dental care.
I'm rooting for you on that part.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what is it like to see patients? Because that would probably terrify like a new someone who's new to it. So what has that been like for you?
It's been a great experience for me, but that's simply because of the patient. Because I've heard other classmates say the complete opposite. I was blessed to get a patient who I had seen twice last semester who was really great. He understood the program. He's been in the dental program for, I think he said 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And he understands that we're learning, so he's very patient with me because our most of the time right now, our procedures last 4 hours. Even if we don't take the whole 4 hours, we have to schedule them for 4 hours. So that's 4 hours out of their day, regardless of if we use it all or not. So he understands that, and it was really scary at first. I was like, wow, I'm seeing a live person outside of my classmates. We've seen each other once at least, but still it was just like I'm seeing someone outside of my classmate. I'm going to be doing this on them. And at first I was overwhelmed, but eventually I got over it. Like I said, I think the patient made it a lot better than it had it been, or how it was actually.
What are some of the services that you provide right now?
Well, last semester we were only doing dental exams and perio cleaning, so I was just like pretty much calling them in, seeing whatever or procedures they might need, whether it's a filling or if they need to replace a tooth or extract a tooth. That's how we had done last semester. This semester we're going to be doing operative care, so that's like a filling, more cleanings, more dental exams, and I think that'll be all on a patient. Right now we're learning how to do endo, so that'll be like if you have an abscess or something of that sort, like doing root canals. We're learning that stuff. We're learning RPDs. That's like a removable partial denture. So if you're missing, just say your front 2 teeth, you don't want to get implants. We could put like a whole thing in your mouth. So it's like a metal framework with 2 teeth on it. Just clip it in, or we can get implants. But we're not doing implants, but we're learning about RPDs. So yeah. But on a patient note, the only thing we're doing right now is operative care, fillings, cleanings, and dental exams.
So if someone who hasn't received care in a while wanted to sign up to be a patient or learn more about the services, where could they go?
They could come to the dental school. They do a thing where it's like you begin to screen a patient. We don't deal with that ourselves, but there's people who does deal with that. So they screen the patients, kind of see what they need. If it's some care that they feel like students can do, they put them in the student program. But if it's too complex, they give them to the faculty, and it just goes from there.
Oh, cool.
But right now they are assigning our patients based on what the patients need. And I guess once we get into our 3rd year, that's when we'll start getting our own patients and calling and doing everything. Because I do call my patients now, but it's the ones that I know I'm going to see for the procedures that I can do, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be getting someone who need 5 or 6 extractions right now because I'm not doing extractions right now.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay. And what would you say to any like recently accepted DCG students, like those incoming students?
Prepare to not have free time because you're going to be working really hard. Like the first year, it was you don't know what to expect when you're coming into dental school, but you do know that your time is pretty much gone away because we have, I think the first year we had about 37 to 38 credit hours. Mm-hmm. And some classes do start and finish before the end of the semester, but still it's a lot of time that goes into it because you're having lab. You're in class from 8 to 5, or at least I was, because this was pre-pandemic. Now, because the pandemic, everybody's kind of home doing didactic. But for me, coming into dental school, we were in class from 8 to 5. That does not include my studying time outside of class or the extra lab time I had to put into it. So I would just say make sure you're really well with time management, working hard, and you're motivated, also determined, and just make sure you can keep your head focused on what you need to be doing because it's going to take a lot of dedication doing that.
And last question is, where can we go to keep up with your journey in graduating and whatever comes afterwards?
So I just started a dental blog. I'm on Instagram at toothfairy.__, and I'm also on Facebook at the same name. Again, that's toothfairy altogether .__ on Instagram. I'm posting my journey as I go, and I'm gonna soon be starting a YouTube page. I haven't quite figured out when just yet, but I will keep you guys in touch, and I hope you guys follow me and just watch what I do.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never have to miss another one. Also, to make our hearts sing, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. But don't stop there. Share our episode and talk to us on Instagram at InTheWildPod. You can follow me too at Raysean Ricks. Until then, I'll see y'all next time, and go get wild.
Jaguar is the official news source for Augusta University. From student life to the latest on our amazing faculty and staff, we've got you covered on all of our campuses in Augusta and across the state. As educators in liberal arts, cyber sciences, research, and clinical expertise, there are great stories to be told every day. Check them all out at jaguar.augusta.edu.